a young queen, fulfilled in her duty, fading quietly once her purpose was complete. But that version exists for comfort, not for truth. Hampton Court Palace, October 1537. Jane is 29 years old. She has been in labour for days, and now 12 days after it all began. She is still in the same chambers, still weak, still drifting further away, while the court celebrates the birth of a prince. For centuries, history has clung to one dramatic explanation, a caesarean section, the desperate king, a brutal decision, one clean, shocking moment that makes sense of everything that followed. But Jane Seymour was not cut open to save her child. That image comes from later writers, valets, and political enemies who wanted a villain. The records written by people actually present in 1537 tell a far more unsettling story. Jane survived the birth. She lived long enough to sign letters, to receive visitors, to smile weakly and play the part of a triumphant mother. In Tudor England, cutting into a living woman's abdomen was not a gamble. It was a guaranteed death within hours. Jane lingered for nearly 2 weeks. Her timeline alone dismantles the myth. And once the legend collapses, a far darker question emerges. If she was not killed by a blade, what was slowly killing her while everyone believed the danger had passed? The caesarean myth survived because it was useful. Decades after Jane's death, England was split by religious war. Henry VIII had broken with Rome, dissolved monasteries, and crowned himself head of the Church of England. To Catholic writers abroad, he was not merely controversial, he was a tyrant. In 1585, Nicholas Sander, a Catholic exile, claimed Henry had been offered an impossible choice: save the Queen or save the child. According to him, Henry chose the heir and ordered Jane cut open. It was vivid, it was damning, and it required no proof to spread. Ballads carried the image across generations. Folk songs repeated it until it hardened into fact. By the 19th century, even serious historians accepted the story without question. It fit perfectly into the image people wanted of Henry. Cruel, obsessed, monstrous. But the myth does something else. It simplifies Jane's death into a single act of violence. One decision, one man to blame. What it hides is far more uncomfortable. Jane did not die in one dramatic moment. She died slowly, invisibly, in a way so ordinary it was barely worth recording when it happened to common women. That is the real horror. To understand it, you have to return to the beginning, before the songs, before the propaganda, before history softened the truth into something easier to digest. You have to step back into Hampton Court in early October 1537, when everything was still carefully arranged, controlled, and hopeful, and no one yet realized that the danger was only just beginning. October 9, 1537, Jane Seymour's labour begins. Hampton Court Palace has been prepared for weeks. The birthing chamber is sealed according to custom. Tapestries line the walls. Candles are ready across London. Prayers are ordered in churches for the safe delivery of the Queen and the long-awaited Prince. This birth is not simply personal. It is political. England's stability depends on its outcome. Almost immediately, something feels wrong. The baby is poorly positioned. Hours stretch into a full day. Then a second night passes with no resolution. By the morning of October 10, Jane has been labouring for more than 24 hours. Find, exhaustion, fear. None of it is recorded. History does not preserve a queen's suffering, only her success or failure. By the third night, the atmosphere in the palace has changed. This is not how royal births are meant to unfold. In London, priests gather in solemn procession. Vigils are held. The mayor and aldermen pray publicly for the Queen's life. Jane's labour drags on for nearly 30 hours, each one draining her strength. Finally, in the early hours of October 12, the ordeal ends. At around 2 in the morning, the child is born. Asson, healthy, alive. Everything Henry has wanted for decades lies crying in that chamber. The relief is overwhelming. The physicians exhale. The attendants whisper congratulations in the corridors. England has its prince, and Jane, broken with exhaustion but alive, appears to have survived the worst of it. This is where the story becomes unbearable. Jane does not collapse after the birth. She does not fade quietly in the first hours. She seems, by Tudor standards, remarkably well. That same day, she signs the official letters announcing the birth of Prince Edward. Her signature is shaky, but clear. 3 days later, on October 15, Edward is christened in the Chapel Royal at Hampton Court. Jane does not attend the ceremony itself, but witnesses report seeing her afterward, sitting upright in bed, pâle, but alerte, smiling as she receives congratulations. She plays her role perfectly. The court believes the danger has passed. Celebrations continue. Gifts arrive. Messages are sent to foreign courts. Henry, finally the father of a legitimate son, is said to be in unusually high spirits. And all the while, something inside Jane's body has already begun to decay. During those long, traumatic hours of labour, the placenta should have been expelled completely. But sometimes, a small fragment tears away and remains behind. It is easy to miss. Invisible from the outside, deadly if left unchecked. In the warmth of the womb, that fragment begins to rot. Bacteria multiply. Infection takes hold. To us, the danger is obvious. To Tudor physicians, it is entirely unseen. They have no concept of germs, no framework for understanding sepsis. They treat what they can observe: weakness, fever, digestive distress. They cannot fight an enemy they do not know exists. There is a bitter irony here. Childbirth had long been women's work. Midwives, through generations of experience, knew that the days after birth could be just as dangerous as labour itself. They recognized the warning signs of retained tissue. They knew how to intervene before infection took hold. But royal births followed different rules. A queen's delivery was considered too important, too symbolic, to be left to women. Male physicians took control, armed with university training, Latin texts, and enormous confidence. What many of them lacked was practical experience. For several days after Edward's birth, Hampton Court remains a place of quiet triumph. Jane rests behind closed doors, receiving visitors in carefully managed moments. Everything appears normal. Then, on October 15, 4 days after the birth, the illusion shatters. Jane suddenly becomes violently unwell. Severe intestinal distress drains her strength. In court records, it is described politely, almost delicately, as a harsh lax. In reality, it is uncontrollable diarrhea, devastating for a woman already weakened by blood loss and exhaustion. At first, the doctors reassure themselves digestive troubles after childbirth are not unheard of. Perhaps it is food. Perhaps her body is simply adjusting. They alter her diet. They administer tonics. For a few hours, the symptoms ease. Relief spreads quietly through the chamber. Then night falls, and Jane worsens dramatically. Her chaplain writes urgently to Thomas Cromwell. She has been very sick all night. Sick in a way that frightens everyone present. What they are witnessing is the infection spreading beyond the womb and into her bloodstream. The doctors do not understand this. They see only the surface. They treat the diarrhea. They try to control the fever. They wait for their remedies to work. By October 17, it is no longer possible to pretend Jane is improving. Her physicians report that she doth rather decay than amend. Worse, not better. That same day, the Bishop of Carlisle is summoned to her chamber to administer the last rites. It is the Church's quiet admission that medicine has failed. Severe infection rarely follows a straight path. It comes in waves, fever spikes, then briefly breaks. Clarity returns for an hour, perhaps a day. Hope flares, only to collapse again. For those watching, these moments are cruel. They encourage denial. For Jane, they would have been torment. Moments lucid enough to ask after her son, to believe she might still recover. Then the heat returns. Her thoughts blur. Her body stops obeying her will. There is no dignity in this decline. No heroic sacrifice. Just the slow dismantling of a young woman who has done everything expected of her. Between October 17 and October 24, time at Hampton Court becomes strangely suspended. Courtiers whisper. Servants move softly through corridors. Everyone understands what is at stake. Yet no one says it aloud. A prince has been born. The queen who secured him may not survive the week. Her illness is both a human tragedy and a political emergency. And those two truths sit uneasily side by side. By the evening of Tuesday, October 24, a rider is sent to summon the king. Henry has not spent every hour at Jane's bedside. Kings do not linger in sick rooms. They receive reports. They keep distance. But now the message is unmistakable. If Henry wishes to see his queen alive, he must come at once. What he finds is not a peaceful woman fading gently into death. It is septic shock. Jane's skin is pale and damp with fever. Her breathing is shallow and labored. Her body is shutting down, system by system, as toxins flood her bloodstream. Sepsis does not grant grand farewells. It steals clarity. Jane may not even have known Henry was there. The irony is brutal. Henry has reshaped an entire kingdom to secure a male heir. That heir now sleeps safely in another room, while the woman who gave him the future he craved is dying beyond the reach of power. Wealth, or command. Sometime in the deep hours of the night, Jane's body stops fighting. There is no dramatic moment, just the quiet realization that her breathing has ceased. 12 days after giving birth, Jane Seymour is dead. By morning, court protocol takes over. Her death is described carefully, softened into complications of childbirth. Her suffering is polished away. Over time, the caesarean myth grows because it is simpler. One blade, one veil line, one moment to point to and say, that is where it went wrong. The truth is far more disturbing. Jane did not die from cruelty. She died from ignorance, invisibility, and a system that rewrote women's pain into something easier to live with.